Hello.
Hey.
Hey, this is it. Well, it might be it. We'll do the Super Bowl line. We'll do a little recap, and then I don't know if we'll do something next week. Obviously, there's a week off in between. There's always 2 weeks from conference championship to Super Bowl. So I don't know if we'll do something next week or not. Depends if there's anything to talk about.
Always something to talk about.
That's true.
Like the Pro Bowl, right? Is that still a thing?
The Pro Bowl game.
Do they have the Pro Bowl still?
They don't put on pads and helmets and smash each other anymore. I don't think it's like
So
flag.
is that an actual game?
It's flag football and skills competitions. But yeah, I don't think there's actually a game. But I've never been.
I don't know. I've never
really cared much about the.
I don't think anybody did.
So one of my friends in college, he was just being an idiot, obviously, but he would always say his favorite team was the NFC. And he was talking about the Pro Bowl, and he acted like the Pro Bowl was like his favorite thing all year. And so
it's a great bit.
He would just bring it up every once in a while about, how about the NFC this year? Obviously, in the middle of the season, you don't know who's going to be playing for that team. So it's just like a super dumb joke.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was funny.
It's a really funny joke. In fact, it's great.
Yeah. So I don't even know who's going, or I haven't tuned into like the new format and like what they do. I mean, it seems pretty entertaining. They play like dodgeball and they do like some obstacle course stuff for like skills competitions.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok this morning where they were trying to throw quarterbacks were trying to throw a football into like a tube, and they all missed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, the tube's like pretty big.
How far away?
I think it was 70 yards, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. If you put it 20 yards away.
No, it wasn't 20. It was like almost only. It was far, right? So they were all. Was Baker, Jalen. Like I know these people using their first names. Tua. I don't know. There's like 7 or 8 of them. They all were wide left or wide right, but just like because it was sort of flowered out at the top, so they were all like this or like this.
Did they just get one try?
The clip only had one try of each. I don't know like if they got like 10 tries or it was like the 3-pointer competition and something like that. They had a row of balls, but
yeah, I mean, if it was truly 70 yards, I mean, some of them are barely even going to make it that far, if that. It must have been a little bit closer, but I would think like 20 yards. A lot of them, at least the more accurate ones, would hit that pretty consistently.
I gotta look it up. Yeah, it was just I just thought like, come on, really? Like not one person is gonna get close. They're all missed in very similar ways, which maybe that's the interesting point.
Yeah, well, you didn't name an elite quarterback in your few that you mentioned, so.
Well, Purdy and Mahomes is Purdy. This has been the stupid conversation, like, because I have sports on when I work from home, just in the background, it's just noise. And a lot of the noise this week was just like Purdy, like he's not good. He's a game manager. He's a system quarterback.
Yeah.
It just feels like a dumb, like that whole thing just seems dumb to me. That debate, that classification seems.
Yeah, I mean,
silly.
But some people will just continue to think that until he plays on a team where he has no weapons, and it's just, I mean, it's silly at this point. Like, even if whatever, let's just say that you thought he played absolutely horrible the first half of the Lions game, which I don't know that he really did. Like, he wasn't playing real well, but they just got down early. But then, like you're down 17 at half to come back and, granted the Lions gave him a couple because they went for it on 4th and they fumbled. But I mean, you still have to move the ball down the field over and over again. And part of that is not, like you're down 17, right? So mentally you have to just stick with it and like take it one play at a time. And that's like who he is, but also like not just being a game manager, obviously, like, he's got a lot of weapons, but the stats are pretty wild too.
Yeah, that was the thing. It's like 4,000 yards. What defines a game man? It seems like you take the stats out of it, in this conversation. Like I get if you're winning, if your team is winning games and you're throwing for 150 yards and you're averaging like a touchdown and an interception or maybe 2 touchdowns. Those aren't bad, but they're not impressive. That's a game manager. But somebody who's throwing 2 to 3 touchdowns a game, averaging 300 yards a game, accumulating over 4,000 yards, making it to 2 AFC champion or NFC championships game in their first 2 years. This just seems to me like this. I don't think he's Mark Sanchez, right? Like Mark Sanchez went to back-to-back AFC championship games, right, with the Jets for some reason, and then his career sort of fell apart. Brock Purdy doesn't seem like Mark Sanchez, right? Like I feel like he's going to be around next year.
Yeah, he just signed a deal with Toyota.
Did he?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the first. Apparently, Toyota just became an official sponsor of the NFL or something like that, and so he's their first player to sign or whatever. So since his contract's only like $700,000,
Yeah, it's
now
like
he's
not,
actually making some decent money out of a
Yeah.
sponsorship. Probably, I don't know what the contract was, but you'd have to think it's millions
They
of
had-
dollars.
yeah. Oh, for sure. So this may be jumping ahead, but if the Niners lose, what are the odds that Shanahan tries to get a new quarterback going? Like, if not into next year, what if they like draft a quarterback, or like what are the odds? Because they wanted to move off of Purdy after last year.
They did?
Remember they wanted to go after Brady.
Well, right, but yeah, I mean, if Brady's coming, like,
Yeah.
who isn't taking Brady? But like, are you really going to draft some guy that?
I don't know. Shanahan feels to me, they have like coach killers, like in the NBA of like a coach. Like Shanahan seems like a quarterback killer. He's never like happy with his quarterback, no matter how good it is. His system's so good that they should win. I just feel like he's like a bit of an ego. Like,
Yeah. Oh, well, definitely. He kind of seems like a red ass. Like he's always pissed off. But
yeah.
So here, let's just put this in a time capsule right here.
Yeah.
What are the odds that any quarterback taken in this draft,
Okay.
has a better career than Brock Purdy?
Oh,
Now,
great question.
Obviously,
Great question.
we're not even gonna we'll have Alzheimer's by the time this all plays out. But I would say the odds that Brock Purdy has a better quarterback than all of them is better than 50%. I'll just say that. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see, because obviously, like, I don't know where like Debo's contract is and like all these, like Ayuk and the Niners offensive line and all their studs on defense. Like, they probably aren't going to be able to afford to sign all of them for the next 5 years. So, some of that talent's going to drop off, and we'll get to see what happens with Purdy in San Francisco, or, who knows, maybe he does fizzle out. I just don't see it happening.
I don't either. I think Purdy is, I don't know. I mean, he's not Mahomes, but I think he's shown enough to this point and consistently that he's just, if he was drafted in the 3rd round, I don't think this narrative exists, right? I think it's all like he was literally the last player taken in his draft. I think that is what drives a lot of that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just tell themselves he can't be good no matter what he does because of that. I don't know. Like, people, like we said last week, people love to hate Taylor Swift. People love to hate Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
And it kind of seemed like a lot of those people wanted Lions, Ravens, and well, we got Chiefs, Niners in the rematch. So let's get to the line, and we can keep rehashing all this stuff. Okay, so it's Chiefs, Niners. They are at a neutral field in the town of Las Vegas, Nevada. It's the Raiders Stadium, actually, they're playing at.
Or was it Reliance Stadium, whatever? The black box.
If you want to travel down and rent a condo, it's like tens of thousands of dollars for like a weekend, if not more than that.
Has to be like, Vegas is stupid expensive normally.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're not rich, or you don't know someone, like, you're not going there that weekend, without emptying all you have.
That's right.
So that's where they're playing. So it's a rematch from four or
yeah.
5 years ago, where
Yeah.
the Chiefs were down by
17.
it was at least 3 scores.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was 3 scores. It was like 17 or 20 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And did they score the first score they got was in the fourth quarter? Like they were still
Oh,
down
the
three
Chiefs?
scores with like I think they scored, don't quote me on this, it's been a while, but
Mm.
I think they scored a touchdown with like 10 and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then I think they got their next points pretty quick and
Yeah.
they ended up winning. I don't think it went to overtime, but
It didn't.
so yeah, I mean that's
Just
you know,
like last year.
yeah.
Just like last year's Super Bowl, they were down and then they ended up.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I mean, same sort of situation. Like, I don't know if it was 3 scores, but
No, well,
it was to a point where it's like, you always figure Mahomes has a chance, but it was like it's getting kind of late. And then
Yeah.
of course it happened again. But let's do the line really quick. So I have Chiefs by 2.5.
And I went the other way. I went Niners by 2.5.
Yeah, you're gonna get this because I think it's like you're like it opened at like Niners by like a point or a point and a half, I think. And I think it's yeah, so it's actually 2. So opened at 2.5, went down to 2. So
Like I originally wanted to set the line at like when the matchup came out, I was like, it's like 6.5.
for who?
For Niners. I was
Yeah.
always gonna have the Niners favored in the matchup. I just like on paper, they're the better team. You know what I mean? But on the field, they don't have Patrick.
Right. So I was actually gonna go Niners slightly favored just based on like the year and like what's happened. Like it seems like the Niners have been, like you said, quote unquote, the best team. Obviously the Ravens beat them, but it still seemed like if the Niners play a clean game and everyone else plays a clean game, that they were the best team.
Yeah.
But with what the Chiefs have done and like how they've turned it on, I just told myself like how can they like how are the Chiefs not favored here? Like who's picking against Mahomes and the Chiefs? Like so I went Chiefs. I'm not surprised it's Niners, but still it's like
Is it so? One of the things I had heard on the radio, wherever podcast was coming in, and like on the Chief, like all the money was going to the Chiefs side. So is that like why the line is the way that it is? Is because the money's going to the Chiefs? Is that how that works? I'm actually
no, so
yeah.
so let's just say this. Okay, so it opened at 2.5,
Yeah.
right? If 100% of the money's going to the Chiefs,
Either way, yeah.
then the Chiefs will end up being favored. Like if it keeps doing that,
Yeah.
unless
Okay.
so if Vegas thinks if Vegas thinks the other side is still correct, even though everyone else is taking the Chiefs, for example, they would just hold it. And obviously, like every book, every casino has the right to like modify their line based on where the money's coming in or whatever. But a lot of times, if they feel the other side is correct, they will just hold it, and they're basically gambling like everyone else. So, yeah. So I mean, it's 2.5. It came down a little bit to 2. So yeah, I mean that means that the Chiefs are getting money. Typically, I mean, I don't know how you really know for sure, but
People on the internet
that's how
said
it
so.
works. But so here's the thing, like who did the Chiefs go through? So the Chiefs went through why do I keep forgetting who they played the first round of the playoffs?
Miami.
Oh, Miami and the Frozen Tundra Bowl.
Yeah, Freezer Bowl.
So they smashed them. There it is, 26-7. Miami were sort of frauds. They beat everyone they should have beat and lost all the good teams this year, basically.
Dallas, who's also
They beat the Cowboys by 1 point at home, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the Chiefs beat the Dolphins, then the Chiefs beat the Bills in Buffalo, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, no matter who you talk to.
Everybody loved Buffalo.
And then so they went into Buffalo, did that. And now they went into Baltimore, who at the time everyone said was the best team in the NFL, beat them. Now you've got the Niners, they beat them in the Super Bowl a few years ago, even though the Niners built a huge lead. Why, why are the Chiefs not favored to win this game? I just don't understand.
I like I said, I think it's pure. If you're looking at the paper, they're the better team. I think that's it. And they had the better record too, right? So that's probably the other piece, right? Just
the Niners.
The Niners came in the better record. They're the higher seed. And I think, they have played a better quality of football than the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have sort of kind of won kind of in spite of themselves and sort of by the skin of their teeth and the seat of their pants.
But that, I mean, yeah, in the regular season.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's wild. And
but I mean, that game, I mean, the defense dominated Baltimore, but that game was 17-10. And Baltimore, and that's the thing, that's one of the things that I didn't understand about all of the talk and the dissing about Baltimore. That game was theirs to win. They had, and I know there were two critical mistakes. They gave away the ball at the goal line twice. Like, they were going to score on those drives, right? If they don't give the ball up, if he doesn't throw that interception, Flowers doesn't fumble on the goal line, that's 24-17 Ravens. Like, it's not like they didn't have opportunities to score or they weren't able to score. They gave the ball away. I don't know. I just think like that wasn't a great game for the Chiefs. The Buffalo game, obviously Miami game was good. And I also think the way that they've been winning the Chiefs with their defense, that's just incongruous to how people, I think, see the Chiefs. So that may be playing into it too.
Yeah, but I mean, it almost seemed like the Chiefs. I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Like in the second half, yeah, they didn't score, right? They had 17 and a half, but
They held them.
It almost seemed like they knew at that point they had a good game plan against Lamar, and like the Ravens weren't really moving the ball, so it was almost like they were being cautious and they weren't really. It seemed like they weren't really trying that hard
Put the points on.
They were more protecting the ball, protecting the lead, rather than trying to go score and maybe throw an interception or fumble or whatever. Yeah. Maybe that's just my perception. Maybe the Ravens defense did just totally lock them down. But like when you're ahead by a touchdown and the other team just really isn't moving that needle, it's kind of like we can be cautious. We can punt this ball. Like they downed it at the one time and just kind of like play that game. I don't know. I mean, probably a little bit of both, but yeah, like, so I talked about what the Chiefs of who they've beaten the last couple weeks. And then you look at the Niners. So they had the bye and then they barely beat the Packers. They needed a drive late in the fourth quarter. And then they're down by 17 to the Lions and they pull it out.
Running back.
Like, I don't like. They better not get behind the Chiefs by 14.
Oh my God.
I mean, anything can happen in the Super Bowl, and in football, just because like turnovers and like a fumble can happen, right? But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just kind of, well, I guess I'm intrigued more than anything to see how it plays out. And like, let's just say the Niners are up by 14 starting the fourth quarter. Like, you have to think. It has to at least cross your mind about what happened, like, 4 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. Maybe they can rely on coming back against the Lions and like they did what they needed to do when they were down big to like, overcome that deficit and win that game. But this is just a different onion, right? Like it's Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I don't know.
I mean, he's a legend. Mahomes is a legend in his seventh year. Like he's never not been in the AFC Championship game while starting, and half the time he's in the Super. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. And this is something else that came up on the I don't know, wherever I was listening, the media I was listening to, just like how you run right from Brady, who was so dominant, and right into Mahomes, who's been maybe even more dominant in the first several years of his career. It is just weird that kind of all that goes out the window. Like the weight of his excellence just doesn't seem to factor in here. It is strange.
Yeah, and just the game planning. Like you get 2 weeks too, right? Like Andy Reid. Granted, Shanahan is great at this too, but the game plan against the Ravens was in the first half was just fantastic. They were they were mixing it up a little bit. Like the Ravens, I don't think they were real great against the tight end. Well, they were good against everything, but like against the tight end, they weren't that great. And Kelsey had a million catches. Like he was finding
had a
his
great game.
spaces. They were throwing like some bubble screens and stuff that was working. It's like they knew it was going to work, and that was the way to attack Baltimore's defense. And they just kind of like long drives, held the ball, and just basically let the Ravens make some mistakes and like just took it from them. I heard something on the radio about like, Mahomes flew in whatever the day before the game, and he had a suit. He posted him in a suit getting off the plane, right? And they were like, "Why would you wear a suit? Like that flight has got to be packed. There's a lot of guys on the team. Like, there's no way he's not sitting next to someone," which I find that hard to believe. Like, why not? But at any point, they're like, "That's not comfortable. Like, why would you do that?"
The professional.
Yeah, it's a business trip, right? Like that's what he's saying. It's a business trip, and it was a business trip. They took care. Like the Ravens were down by at least a touchdown from pretty much the get-go and never got closer than that. Yeah, the fumble at the half-yard line would have changed things, obviously.
And his interception, like right into the end zone. Like I mean, that's the game, right? Like that happens. They made those mistakes, but it just that was a more competitive game than it ended up being because of those turnovers. And obviously turnovers are part of it. But
and another thing with Mahomes, people forget about the Chiefs is like their defense against the pass is really good.
Their defense is the best. Is it the best defense he's had, Mahomes?
I think someone said that. Depending how you.
I mean, I don't look at the statistics or anything, but or the personnel, but it feels like that is more of a strength than it's ever been.
Yeah, so I don't know, very intriguing. Like both teams, the Niners have more weapons. Obviously, even though I think Purdy's a good quarterback, you're not going to say he's better than Mahomes. So like Niners have more weapons.
Yeah.
Niners defense, maybe you give a slight nod to, but maybe it's pretty equal. And then you got Mahomes with a really good weapon, but not as much outside of that. I don't know. It'll be, I think it's a fair line whether you go up to a field goal either way. But it'll be a fun Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're looking at 3-13 here. Final score. What do you think? Like over under? What do you think the over under is going to be at? Settle at or?
I don't know. I didn't know. It looks like it's 47 and a half.
47 and a half.
Which seems high, but
so that's like 27 or
both offenses can score a lot if they need to. Like, the Niners Lions ended up 34-31.
Yeah. No, was it more than that? Was it? No, it was at 34-31. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think obviously everyone thinks about this game. They're like, "Oh, McCaffrey, like he scores so many touchdowns, and Debo and Kelsey and Pacheco and all that." I don't know. I think like when it comes down to these games, there's always gadget plays. There's always like I think we're gonna see maybe the Niners overplay Kelsey and like Noah Gray might have a decent game, or like Richie James has been kind of weaseling his way into the receiving core for the Chiefs. Like Kadarius Toney's kind of on the outs. Scantling, they throw like one deep ball to him a game, but like Richie James is getting a few targets. So I think Andy Reid and Shanahan with 2 weeks to dream up a play you've never seen before. Like that'll be interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you would see that as much I don't know. I feel like Ben Johnson and Monk and the coordinator for the Ravens are both kind of, two of the best, in the league at this point too. So maybe that's not so much. I don't know. What do you think? What's the storyline going to be?
I mean, the storyline is it's Mahomes, right? It's Mahomes until it isn't. I mean, if they win that game, be interesting if they win that game, and it's and if it's the defense that carries them, if there's somebody else who's like MVP from the defense, like was there D tackle? Is it Chris Jones? Is that it? It's like really, really good.
Yeah.
Like if he could have a monster game, if he ends up with a ton of sacks and just kills Purdy all day, that would be fascinating. Like for Mahomes Super Bowl to not have him be the MVP. Which again, given how well that defense played against the Ravens, maybe that's something to look for. I think I really want to pick like the Niners here, like in terms of like who's going to win, but I don't see how you pick against Mahomes. Like I'm not going to bet this game, but I don't know how, because I do think the Niners are the better team, but yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see,
Yes.
but since I'm wearing blue today, we better talk a little bit about the Lions' epic collapse against the Niners. So, second half, they're up 17, and the Niners drive down and they get stopped and they kick a field goal. So that's 14, right? So the Lions get the ball and they go down and they're inside the Niners 30. It's like 4th and 2. And Campbell's done this all year. He goes for it, right? He goes for it more than any other coach on 4th down. They go for it, they get stuffed. Like 4 plays later, the Niners score a touchdown and they're within 7.
Yeah.
I've kind of been, I don't know how much I've been saying it on here all year, but like when you go for it that much on 4th, when you fake punts all the time, when you do that, like it's going to bite you at some point, and it bit at the worst possible time. So then they're only up 7, right? At that point, it's anybody's game because you have a quarter and a half and it's a 7-point game. So then the Lions fumble on the first play from scrimmage, and the Niners score again. So they tied it at the end of the 3rd quarter, which is the last thing you want if you're a Lion, like the Lions. Even if you go 3 and out and punt it a couple times and they score a touchdown and a field goal or 2 touchdowns, you still have the lead, even if you play conservative. But that's not the way they've played all year, and I guess it came back to bite them. But I mean, and then he went for it again. What was it? Was it tied and they could have taken the lead?
I don't remember. Yeah, he did it. He hit like the second half of that game. It fell apart. Like there's no better way to describe it. Like they just fell apart.
Yeah, and I mean the Lions defense was never going to hold the Niners down for a whole game. You knew that, and I don't know how much you watched it, but the first half, the Lions converted 3rd and 10 plus. Like
they looked so good. I don't know.
5 times
they were. They didn't. The first half looked like the Lions were never going to slow down. That offense was just going to keep scoring, and it didn't. It just didn't. The second half they just weren't able to do it. They stumbled. They gave the ball away. A lot of game mismanagement by Campbell. I will be shocked. I'll be honest. I didn't think it was going to be as competitive as it was, for as long as it was. It was a really fun game. Like watching the Niners get pants for 2 quarters was right. That was good.
That first drive, Jameson Williams takes an end around and goes to the house, and like 2 guys could have tackled him, and like
they were surprised. It's a good play call.
If he doesn't go to the house, like I don't know, do they score a field goal? Do they score a touchdown there? Like it would have made it different, but and then they get another touchdown. Obviously, then that changes things, right? Because you're up 2 touchdowns. But yeah, it was definitely an entertaining game.
They're an entertaining team. Like the Lions, like just fun to watch. Like offensively, there's some creativity in terms of the way they call plays. Ben Johnson is staying. He's not leaving the OC.
How about that? So like, the reports are basically like, he's going to the Commanders, and then all of a sudden he decides to stay, and then there's rumors that his number was too high, and who knows if that's true or not. Like he was demanding too much money. Like meet this number, or I'm staying, or maybe he was just like, I'm just staying. And I heard on the radio they're like, maybe he just said it still smells too much like Dan Snyder.
Which I mean, yeah. It's got to be pretty stinky.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. That place sucked for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
long time.
I think I agree with them. Like, you stay one more year, like, there's no reason to think the Lions are gonna have a regression year.
Well, that's what it is. It's like, are they a one-hit wonder? Because that you see that from time to time, right? You see a team come up and be really good, and then for a season, and then they dissipate. That's like the Bears, what the Bears like to do. They
Right.
win one division title every 10 years, and then they slumber for 9.
Right. And there's so much turnover from year to year on a roster. Like, I have no idea what a lot of the Lions players are for contract wise. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean,
Goff will be there.
if
The
you,
running back will be there.
I mean, the commander's job doesn't seem very like one of the top jobs available. So I get it. Like, stay another year, have another hopefully playoff, campaign, and then, you know, most of the teams probably want you or will at least interview you, and you can take a little bit better job. But yeah, that's that. One other thing. So when Flowers fumbled on the 1/2 yard line, obviously he was
End zone, yeah.
very upset with that. So then they show that he's got like a laceration on his finger.
Oh,
They're like, oh, how did he get that? Well, slamming his hand down on the metal bench and it cut his finger. It's like, oh, okay. So I forget who was doing that game, if it was CBS and it was Nance or if it was someone else, but they're like, so you're telling me he cut his finger by punching the bench essentially? Yep, that's what happened. Oh, and I mean,
metal can be sharp.
it wasn't a big deal. They just like wrapped it up and he was fine. But that was interesting.
What do you think about Greg Olson leaving? Care at all for football announcers?
Well, what was the so I know Brady's moving to Fox next year, but so how did that all play out? Like, what's the
We don't know.
actual story?
Like, well, so Olson was the number one guy, right? Like, and they actually called the Super Bowl last year. Greg Olson and his, I don't even know,
Burkhardt.
That's it, yeah. That was after Brady signed his massive contract, and then Brady said, "I'm going to take a year off," which was kind to Olson. So Olson was the number one guy at Fox, the number one announcer, and now Brady is the number one announcer. And I don't know if Olson's out of a job or if he's going to stick around and be the number 2 at Fox, but he calls a really good game, like a really good game. He breaks down the football in a way that's intelligible, and I think it's quick. He's really efficient with it. He's affable. I mean, it's Tom Brady. It's really hard for Brady to be better than Olsen, I think. Maybe as good, but hard to be better.
Yeah, what's interesting about that? So like Romo does it, right? And like he like calls plays and tells you what's going to happen
Yeah.
or what's likely to happen, which some people absolutely hate and some people love. Like, I like it because I didn't play football all the way through. Like, I don't understand like all of the schemes and whatnot. So like him explaining stuff, I find that kind of cool. I don't know if Brady's gonna, but then like his overall like analysis and him as a commentator maybe isn't the greatest, but it's still decent. Like, I don't mind listening to Romo. A lot of people disagree with me, but I wonder if Brady's gonna do the same sorts of things, like, oh, they're in this, look for this, or if he's gonna be more just kind of, I don't know, like, are his commentator skills gonna be, how good are they going to be? Like, obviously he knows the game and he can talk about that, but there's a little bit of an art to actually doing it.
Yeah,
so
nice. Like, people have to like you. and is Brady at all likable?
Well, I don't
know. Maybe he is, right? He's very personable. Is he charismatic? And he's pretty to look at. But like, that was one of the things that made listening to Olsen good. And I had some snippets, like there were some snippets of Brady recently. I don't remember who he was killing or crushing of one of the last round of playoffs. But like, it just sounded arrogant and shitty. And I was like, are people going to want to turn into 3 hours of arrogance and shitty? And I'm not sure they will.
So the ratings are going to be great.
At
least, at least to start with.
Yes.
And then we'll see kind of how it plays out. Like, like you said, he could turn some people off, but like, probably the greatest football player of all time is going to be doing games. Like, the ratings have to, like, the baseline has to be higher than it currently is. So I get that, but
I mean, it was like, it's just like when with Brady, like if you can get him to be your quarterback, you set aside Brock Purdy so that Tom Brady can be your quarterback. Like yes, of course you're going to set aside Greg Olsen to bring Tom Brady into your booth, because he is the greatest football player of all time. I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, but it's just, I don't know what are you going to get? It's just be fascinating.
Here's the storyline. Here's the fantasy world storyline. The Niners get blown out in the Super Bowl. Brady decides he wants to come back and play for the Niners.
Yeah.
And they flex half of his games off of Sunday, whenever the Fox game is, so that he can commentate some games and play his games for the 49ers. So he's on like a 8-9 or a 9-8 schedule. He's playing every game, but then he's still, because of the flex times, he gets to commentate half the games as well. And then Olsen does the ones that he doesn't do, and they compare ratings.
That would be fascinating. I mean, again, I don't even know if Olsen will be on Fox. I think there's some talk that he's might even go to a different network, or might not even be a game analyst anymore, or he might be an analyst but not a game, might not call games. He said I don't know what he specifically said. He's like looking at the full spectrum of opportunities or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think another network, if they have an opening, would take him in some capacity, because like you said, I mean,
no question.
His analysis is
no question.
very solid.
Shit, he may be hosting a game show next year. Maybe the host of Pressure Luck next year. I don't know.
And they'll have that commercial where he's like he's bald or whatever.
Yep. Like trying to imitate Bradshaw.
Maybe they'll work that into the. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, can you imagine though? Like next year, like Brady's stuck calling like Bears Commanders. Like, do you think Brady makes it to halftime of that shitty game? Like he's just so done with the stupidity on the field. He's like, I'm done. These teams are so terrible that needs no more commentating.
Yeah, I suppose he'll finish it out. He probably, I mean, he's got enough money, but he probably wants the money they're going to pay him to like complete the broadcast.
I mean, he's not a quitter. Like he could be the worst broadcaster in the world. He's still going to finish all 16, 17 games. So 18 games.
All right. So over under on times they pan to Taylor Swift is going to be up there.
If he makes it.
Well, yeah, she had a conflict, but what was
in Japan? She has a concert in Tokyo. And so like the day before the Super Bowl. And it's like a 17-hour flight plus the time change. So we're not sure if she can make it or not. And she's going to have to fuel up that private jet and kill half of the Amazon rainforest to get here. But I think she's going to do it.
I've heard she's going to be there, but I mean, the source, I don't know what the source was, so we'll see.
She might have to invent teleportation technology.
But yeah, it'd be a good time for that. So no matter what happens, like if the Niners lose, it's going to be, oh yeah, Purdy sucks. He's no good.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs lose, it's going to be like, oh, poor Taylor. And people are just going to love to hate either one of those. Like there's going to be something to hate no matter what. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. I'll take a 1-score game coming down to the wire. Yeah. I don't want the team that's winning to kneel at the end. I want the team that's losing to be down 3 or 7 or 8 or 6 or 5 or 4 or 2 or 1 and have a drive. And the last play is either
not a dumb penalty,
a field goal, a touchdown for the win, or
something dramatic,
an interception, or like incomplete as time expires. Let's do one of those.
Or a missed field goal return for a touchdown. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be unique, I think, in Super Bowl history. I don't think that's ever happened.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. What else? You got anything else?
No, I'm gonna miss football. Why isn't there like a feeder league or something like after football ends? Like in spring, where's spring football? I guess the USFL is that.
Well, there was like 2 leagues and now they merged, and so they're
the USFL. Yeah, but it's not an NFL affiliate. They're their own thing.
Well, yeah, I don't know how that all works, but that's I think starts up right? Like they try to like have it going while they.
Yeah, you're right. It is in like April or something, I think. Like there's 8 teams. I don't know. Should we guess the lines for the USFL?
No, not when you can go for 3 from the 15 and 2 from the 10 and 1 from the 2 or whatever. I'm out.
Yeah, well, Chicago doesn't even have a team, I don't think.
Yeah,
But no one to root for. That's right. It's growing.
Maybe that land they bought up there is they're going to use for the.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a terrible idea, right? Build a new stadium and then have another football team in there half the year, another half the year. That makes a ton of sense. Money wise.
Yeah. Well, every week we do this, we're 1 week closer to the Bears and Vikings getting back on the field. It's been a while now.
Yeah. We got the draft. The draft's coming up. That'll be exciting. What the Bears do with that stupid pick.
Yeah. And here's the problem.
The Bears have it.
Yeah. Packers won a playoff game. The Lions won 2 playoff games, and now we're Bears and Vikings fans, and it's like, do we see this getting better anytime soon?
No.
I saw something that, like, I don't know how this all works out, but like the Wilfs is the family that owns the Vikings, and there's some history between like them and Belichick, and there was something like maybe they'll go after Belichick. Well, I mean, O'Connell's had 2 years and he made the playoffs his first year. Like, I think it's a little early to go there, but
they would have made the playoffs this year if they had a quarterback, ability at the quarterback position. Like,
right. Yeah.
I mean, that 7th seed, they were right there.
Yeah, and I mean, they're 6-4 when Cousins got hurt, right? So I don't know. You could have, and he had beaten the Niners, so like it wasn't crazy to think that they could have ended up 10-7 in the NFC, which would have gotten them.
That was
what did the Lions get to 11-6?
Yeah, then and
the
the Packers. Oh, the Lions were 11-6, and then the Packers were 9-8, I believe. So 10-7 is the 7th seed for sure.
We're right, but I'm saying even like higher than the 7th seed.
Oh, they could have. Could they have had the division? Yeah, maybe.
All right. Yeah, lots of things to think about, but I think we're gonna call it a day.
Yes.
And don't tune in this Sunday for the game because it's not going to happen. If you want to watch the Pro Bowl games, that's this weekend. Next weekend is the Super Bowl. Football. Okay. Go Vikings!
Go Bears!